You see them everywhere, right? On our homes, in our offices, these security cameras. We install them because, well, we want to feel safe. They're supposed to be our digital guardians, watching over the things we care about. But here's the thing. That trust, it assumes the guardian is actually on our side. And that's where we run into a really serious hidden risk that we absolutely need to talk about. So what if that security camera is actually the spy? I mean, think about it. The very device you installed to protect yourself is secretly working against you. And I'm not talking about some hacker breaking in over your Wi-Fi. No. I mean, it was designed that way from the very beginning, right from the factory. This isn't some movie plot, folks. This is a very, very real problem.
Okay, so this kind of threat actually has a name. It's called supply chain risk. And what it really means is that a vulnerability, a weakness, is put into the device long before it ever gets to you. We're talking about something woven into the very fabric of the product while it's being made.
The best way to think about it is like the classic Trojan Horse. You bring this camera inside your secure network, inside your castle walls, right? And you think it's totally safe, but hidden deep inside its code, in what's called the firmware, there's a secret backdoor. And your firewall? It's completely useless against this, because the camera itself is the spy. It was designed from day one to call home to some server somewhere that you know absolutely nothing about.
You know, this risk got so big, so widespread, that governments, starting right here in the US, had to step in. They basically had to draw a hard line in the sand and say, okay, enough is enough.
And that response came in the form of the National Defense Authorization Act, or the NDAA for short. And let me tell you, this piece of legislation sent absolute shockwaves through the entire security industry.
So what does this NDAA thing actually do? Well, it's not just a simple ban on a few brand names. The really crucial part is that it targets the core components. We're talking about the actual computer chips inside the camera. See, this put a stop to a really common practice called OEM. That's where a company could just buy a banned camera, slap their own logo on it, and sell it like it was a totally different compliant device. The NDAA said nope. It forced everyone to prove their equipment is truly compliant right down to the silicon.
And believe me, this isn't just a friendly suggestion. For the professionals out there installing this stuff, the consequences are huge. If you get it wrong, you could get hit with what's called a rip and replace order. That means you are legally and financially on the hook for tearing out every single piece of non-compliant gear and replacing it. That's a cost that could absolutely devastate a business.
All right, so with all these security fears swirling around, the industry started to look for a new answer. And the solution was to change the whole setup entirely. We started moving away from that physical recording box you'd stuff in a closet and started moving everything into the cloud.
So this big shift is from something called an NVR, that's a network video recorder, to something called Video Surveillance as a Service, or VSaaS. And this isn't just a tiny tweak, oh no. This fundamentally changes everything, especially when it comes to who's responsible for keeping your security and your data safe.
So let's break this down. With that old school NVR, yeah, your video is on a hard drive in your building, but all the responsibility for securing it, that's on you. The patches, the network security, all of it. Now with a cloud system, the vendor, the company you're paying, takes on that liability. They handle all the updates and secure connections. It completely flips the script on who carries the risk. But there's always a catch, right? Now you're paying a monthly subscription and you are totally dependent on your internet connection.
Okay, but a quick note on that internet outage problem. You might be wondering, what happens then? Well, the industry came up with a pretty clever solution called hybrid cloud. Here's how it works. If your internet goes down, the camera just keeps recording to a little SD card right inside it. Then, once the connection comes back online, it uploads all that saved footage to the cloud. So you literally never miss a thing. Pretty smart, right?
But just when you think you solved one problem, another one pops up. Moving to the cloud introduces a totally new and often invisible kind of risk. And this one isn't about hardware or software. It's a legal and geographical problem that can have, you guessed it, massive financial consequences. You know, we love to talk about the cloud. It sounds so nice and floaty, doesn't it? But the cloud isn't a cloud at all. It's just someone else's computer. It's a physical server, a real machine sitting in a real building in a real country. And that leads to a super critical question. Do you have any idea which country your data is physically stored in? Because trust me, it matters a lot.
This whole idea is called data sovereignty. And what it means is that your data, your video footage, is subject to the laws of the country where that server is physically located, not where you are. And this can become a massive, massive headache when you're doing international business, especially with powerful regulations out there like Europe's GDPR.
Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you install a security camera for a client in, say, Germany. But the cloud video company you use is American, so all that footage gets sent to their servers over in Virginia. Well, guess what? You may have just illegally exported the personal data of European Union citizens, which could trigger a major GDPR violation. And the fines for that? They are absolutely staggering. We're talking potentially millions of dollars.
So we've got all these crazy complex risks, right? From the supply chain all the way to data sovereignty. It became clear that a whole new, much more rigorous way of thinking about security was needed. And that new philosophy is called zero trust.
The old way of doing things, the old security model, was what we called the castle and moat. The idea was, if you can get past the firewall, the moat, then you're considered trusted, and you can pretty much wander around freely inside the network, the castle. Well, zero trust comes along and completely blows that idea up. It works on one simple assumption. The enemy is already inside the walls, so it trusts nothing by default. The motto for zero trust is super simple and incredibly powerful. Never trust, always verify.
Okay, so how does this actually work in the real world? Well, it's based on a few key ideas. First up is micro-segmentation. Basically, each camera is put in its own little digital bubble, totally isolated. It can't talk to or even see the printer or the server that's right next to it. Second, there's continuous authentication. The system doesn't just check your password once when you log in. It's constantly re-verifying that you are who you say you are. And finally, and this is a big one, is the principle of least privilege. A camera's job is to send video, right? So it only gets the absolute minimum permissions it needs to do that one job, and nothing more.
And all of this leaves us with one last, really crucial question to think about. In a world where we're connecting everything from our security cameras to our coffee makers to the internet, the old ways of thinking about trust they're breaking down. The whole zero trust philosophy suggests that the answer to what should we trust by default is, well, nothing. In this new world packed with hidden risks, maybe the only truly safe approach is to trust nothing and verify everything.